Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. And today I'm super excited for this one because it's another comparison video that I have been planning to do for a very long time. So with that, I can't wait to do this. But before we continue off, here's one thing I want to say. I hope you guys really enjoy the TNB play because it was such a fun, yet a little tricky play to do, but totally worth the way of making it on the 28th. Alright, back to the main topic. So you might be wondering what kind of movies I'll be comparing. Well, for today, I thought of this. So I'll be comparing the King and Queen series and the Zachis series. Yep. Now I've seen a lot of videos on a lot of people comparing the King and Queen series. Queen series and the Zachis series. And yeah, I can see that they have some few similarities. Mostly with the characters. But there are some few differences I see through each of these movies. So for this comparison video, I'm going to do an icebreaker and tell how these movies are completely different, but also have some few similarities with each other. So yep, this is going to be a very fun one, and also of course for next year, both of them will be getting sequel films coming out with King and Queen 9 and Zachis 7 coming out in December of 2026. Which is a very rare thing for a King and Queen movie and a Zachis movie to be releasing with each other, since they are released in either a year before or a year after these movies, and I'll get to that later on in a bit of this video. But definitely looking forward to King and Queen. Queen 9, not too sure about Zachis 7, but I'll check it out because of Josh McCown and Bunny War. Anyways, I can't wait to do this, so let's get started. Now the first thing I'm going to compare that a lot of people have compared are the characters. And looking at both of these movies, I can definitely see of how each of the characters are similar in somewhat. We got the strong, courageous main protagonists / the leaders, which are King Nigel and Zachis. We got the sidekicks, who are very loyal and helpful to the main protagonist, which is King Paul and Brachus. We got the intelligent anti-hero third main heroes, you know, the characters that we all know and love. And they are both cat characters, which is King 12 and Patches. And for a bonus one, we got the love interest / wife, which is Queen Paula and Ms. Zachis. Now get ready for the most confusing part. The only difference in each of them are the introductions. Like for example, Patches was introduced in the third film, while King 12 was introduced in the seventh film. While Queen Paula was introduced in the first film, while Ms. Zachis was introduced in the third film. Now there are also two differences for each of the characters. Well, at least with the roster of the main characters for each of the film series. Like for example, one of them are the recurring members of the group. You know, the ones that have appeared a lot in backgrounds, or sometimes helping out each of the characters like this. For example, for King and Queen, it has a recognizable cast of fairy tale members who are recurring members of King and Queen and his friends. Like for example, there's the Glorias and Princess Gloria. There's the Gregs and Prince Greg. There's the Robot Goblins. There's Queen Nikki. There's the Robot Dragon anti-heroes. I don't mean the Robot Dragon 5000 and his JR version from King and Queen 5, The Darkest Hour. I mean the good Robot Dragons that work for King 12. And sometimes a group of fairies called Wish Granters. Also, of course, had introduced King Paul and Queen Nikki's son, Prince Percy, who falls in love with a girl he meets named Princess Natalie in Royal Elementary School from King and Queen 5. But this couple only appeared once in the King and Queen series and never appeared in King and Queen 6, since that film was focused on King 12, or at the time, Pastor 12's anti-hero arc. As for King and Queen 7 and 8, not a lot, but yep, also of course forgot to mention, there are also Queen Paula's parents, from King and Queen 1. You know, King Peter and Queen Patricia. However, King Peter had passed away in the third film. But other than that, that's the one thing that King and Queen series has. As for Zachis, it has a small tendency of introducing a lot of characters for the main character roster of the group. Like in Zachis 4, throughout the whole Zachis series, they introduced Bagus the Badger in the third film. They introduced the two rabbit brothers of Miss Zachis, of course Maxwell and Andrew, and in the fourth film, they introduced Thomas McGregor, the alien hunter who has lived underneath the Universal Strand. Don't mean Universal Strand in the meme way, I mean like a bridge between Earth and the rest of the planets in space there. And then in the fourth film, we have Eli, Thomas McGregor's pig friend. Betty Bear, the future, the love interest of Pages. So, yep. And then in the sixth film, we meet two other ones, which is Thomas McGregor's alien hunting mentor, Sir Whiskers the Fox, and Brachus's new love interest, Hannah, which you might have seen in my top 10 least favorite couples of my Brachus and Hannah. But anyway, continuing on, that it's another surprising thing of how these two are different. For the king and queen there was King Nigel and Queen Paula. And then there was Queen 13 and King 12 in the seventh. Queen movie, and surprisingly, the Zachis series. It took all 7 movies for Brachus to find a love interest, while King Paul was married to Queen Nikki. So ironic. But anyway, also of course there was Teddy Ruxpin and Grubby in the first film. You know when Zachis and Brachus decided to fight them because they didn't know about OWCA yet. Anyway, that's one of the few things are the recurring members of each of their movies. Now the another difference in them that are completely different are the villains. So for the first movie villains, Goblin and Wings the Dragon were trying to control King Nigel to make him not fall in love with Queen Paula before he got defeated by Queen Paula, who saved her husband, King Nigel. As for Monstophobia, he just wanted revenge on Zachis for having light powers by draining Zachis's powers. Of course, for the second and third films, for Goblinette and Dragon and Reverse Paul, they was just trying to ruin King Paul's life by Goblinette and Dragon, controlling Queen Nikki to make her hate her husband, King Paul. And Reverse Paul tried to destroy the kingdom and kill King Paul and his mom and dad, you know, King Nigel and Queen Paula, and have the kingdom destroyed so he could take it over. And for Zachis 2 and 3, specifically Zachis 3, didn't really show off an all-time villain. You know, Creature Soap Nose the dog, made entirely out of bar soap in the second one. And you know, just ones that barely appeared a lot in the third film. Just the 2 aliens from Mars and Tatooine that were trying to get the Zachis family, along with running through the flaming asteroid storm, so that way they can get to the animals on the rocket. Once they have no room in there for the fourth films, of course we got the Huntsman and the Invisible Man, and Rachis. The Huntsman and the Invisible Man both have a grudge with King Paul for defeating their king Reverse Paul in the third movie, and they both try to take over the fairy tale kingdom by force, even though Reverse Paul contributed to the passing away of King Peter. Along with Rachis, she was just trying to get Thomas McGregor for him stealing her powers and putting them into a lava lamp, along with, well, you know, Rachis. Ia, the evil red panda alien queen with space rabies that, Thomas McGregor was trying to get. Guess I should have said that properly. And for the fifth and sixth films, there was, the Robot Goblin and Dragon armies, and the Yeti, and Skullsworth, and the 3 circus animal hunters, P.T. Barnum, Ann Wheeler, and the Bearded Lady. Now, the Robot Goblin and Robot Dragon armies worked for Pastor 12 before he became the heroic King 12. And the Yeti lives in the Arctic. But the reason King Nigel, Queen Paula, King Paul, and Queen Nikki travel out to find the Yeti is because he's using his telekinesis abilities to cause both couples, now heroic ally Pastor 12, to get extremely ill and sick. So both couples travel to the Arctic to fight the Yeti and save the kingdom. As for Skullsworth, he is a cosmic skull created by Monstophobia, and Skullsworth is trying to destroy the whole solar system. As for P.T. Barnum, Ann Wheeler, and the Bearded Lady, all 3 of them had no business until Zachis and his friends, destroyed P.T. Barnum's circus, and then sent critic astronauts to protest around the second one. So he tried to get revenge on Zachis for, destroying and, manipulating his crew, which is Miss Betty Bear. Yep, now of course there are the, other movies besides the first 6 films of these, which is Zachis having 5 remake films, while King and Queen had its 7th and 8th movies. There's not a lot to compare with them, because the first Zachis remakes film is the first Zachis installment of the 5-film remake saga, while the King and Queen 7th and 8th films serve as the 7th and 8th films of the King and Queen franchise. So, yeah, there's not a lot to compare for each of their villains. Of course, there is the witch, who has witch powers that can control reality itself via black magic. And in 8th movie, there's the sorcerer, aka King Nigel's dad, King Nicholas, and his 2 henchmen, Wilson Warlock and David the Dark. As for Zachis' 5 remake films, well, they had Tom Thumb in the first film, but he also redeemed at the near end of the second film, but they were trying to stop Zachis from preventing the Cyrix's grabbed reopening from getting hit, so that way he could lead a military group. And then there's Philip Carlyle, who wanted to become the next ringmaster. Yeah, that sounds kind of like a silly idea. So I would say that Tom Thumb and Philip Carlyle weren't really the best Zachis villains in my honest opinion. As for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th remake films, they introduced the tall guy in the 3rd and 4th remake films, a tall man who can shatter planets, and stars, and Dog Boy, the Rottweiler circus guard dog. In the 5th remake film, a Rottweiler with a ferocious bite force. But anyways, there's not a lot compared to each of the comp recurring members. And the villains. There is one slight villain that have some few similarities like P.T. Barnum and the Huntsman, because they both are hunters who have grudges against the main protagonist. However, the Huntsman got his grudge in the 4th film, while P.T. Barnum got his grudge in the 6th film, after his circus got review-bombed by the critic astronauts, and the betrayal of Ms. Betty Bear, what was shown in the 6th movie. So, yeah, so other than that, that's the first comparison and differences for the first part of this video, is the characters, which a lot of people do compare. One more thing I forgot to mention. There is this one character who has been a recurring part of the Zachis series, hasn't really interact with the Zachis family in the films, except for parts of the first 5th film, but have been leading to a lot of miseventers, and the ones who that have been all the catastrophes. And that's Zachis. Yep, now like I said, he hasn't really interacted with the herd, but most of the movies he always had these misadventures of trying to find a spot for his spaceship, you know, something like that. In the first film he was trying to land his UFO, but always had a bad of luck with planets crashing in, and stars exploding, and being struck by cosmic lightning, and then at the near end of the 5th film, when his UFO exploded, sorry about that, he lost his UFO, but attempted to place a comet, which caused a huge cosmic volcano to begin to erupt. And then the 6th film, he's still trying to build a new UFO around the surface of Jupiter, because how he's going to build his UFO, and then at the near end of the UFO building montage scene, he was the one who ended up actually saying goodbye to the Zachis family, because he was ready to return to his home planet of Watchworld. So yep, so comparing to that, they do have Zachis, the character aka the 5th member of the Zachis family, throughout their adventures.